never thought a cup of coffee would ruin my life. The morning shift at Vincenzo's was supposed to be easy. I'd been working at the upscale cafe for 3 months, long enough to know the regulars, short enough that I still got nervous when the place filled up. The espresso machine hissed as I pulled shots, the sound blending with the murmur of conversations and the clink of silver spoons against porcelain. I was good at being invisible. That was the point. "Lena, table 6 needs their cappuccinos," Marco called from behind the counter, his voice cutting through my concentration. I nodded, arranging the cups on a tray. The cafe sat in the heart of Chicago's financial district, all marble floors and floor-to-ceiling windows that let in watery November light. Politicians came here, businessmen, people who wore their wealth like armor, and apparently, men who made the air feel different when they walked in. I felt him before I saw him. The conversations didn't stop exactly, but they changed. Became quieter, more careful. I glanced up from the tray, and my hands went still. He sat alone at the corner table, the one that faced the door and had its back to the wall. Dark suit, darker eyes. His jaw was sharp enough to cut glass, and there was something about the way he held himself utterly motionless, utterly aware that made my chest tighten. Marco appeared at my elbow. "That's Alessio Marchesi," he whispered, his voice thin with something that might have been fear or respect or both. "Don't stare, don't linger. Just bring him his coffee and leave." "Who is he?" "Someone you don't ask questions about." I'd lived in Chicago long enough to understand what that meant. The Marchesi name appeared in newspapers, always in connection with legitimate businesses, real estate, construction, restaurants. But there were other stories too, the kind people only told in whispers. Organized crime, the Italian families who ran things from the shadows. I picked up the tray, my pulse suddenly loud in my ears. As I approached his table, I noticed details. The way his fingers drummed once against the wood, then went still. The expensive watch on his wrist, the fact that 2 men sat 3 tables away, watching him with the vigilance of guard dogs. "Your espresso, sir," I said, keeping my voice steady as I set the small cup in front of him. He didn't look at me. "I didn't order this." I blinked. "I'm sorry?" "I ordered an Americano. Black, no sugar." His voice was low, controlled, with an edge that suggested he wasn't used to mistakes. Heat crept up my neck. "I'll fix it right away." "Who made this?" The question hung in the air. Around us, I could feel people trying not to watch, trying not to witness whatever was about to happen. "I did," I said quietly. His gaze finally lifted to meet mine, and I forgot how to breathe. His eyes were the color of smoke before a fire gray with something burning underneath. They moved over my face slowly, as if he were memorizing every feature. My dark hair pulled back in a practical bun, the dusting of freckles across my nose that no amount of makeup could hide, the slight tremor in my hands that I couldn't quite control. "What's your name?" he asked. "Lena. Lena Rossi." Something flickered across his face. "Rossi. It's a common name," I said, though my throat felt tight. My father had died when I was 12, my mother 2 years later. The name was all I had left of them, and I'd learned not to examine it too closely, not to dig into the past they'd never explained. "Is it?" It wasn't a question. One of the men at the nearby table stood, his hand moving toward his jacket. Alessio raised one finger, barely a movement at all, and the man sat back down. "I'll make your Americano," I said, reaching for the cup. His hand caught my wrist. The touch was light but absolute, like he could snap my bones if he chose to but was deciding not to. His skin was warm. I could feel my pulse hammering against his fingers. "You work here every day?" he asked. "Morning shifts, Monday through Friday." "Not anymore." I stared at him. "Excuse me?" "You're done here. Collect your things. My driver will take you to your apartment. You have 30 minutes to pack what you need." The world tilted. "I don't understand." "You don't need to." He released my wrist and stood, towering over me. He was tall enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes, and there was something predatory in the way he looked at me now. "Someone put something in my coffee. Something that wasn't coffee. You brought it to me." My blood went cold. "I didn't. I swear I didn't do anything." "I know." His voice was quieter now, almost gentle. "Which means someone used you. And when my enemies realize you're not useful to them dead, they'll try to take you alive to see what you know." He buttoned his suit jacket with one hand, the movement casual despite his words. "You have 29 minutes now. I suggest you move." "I'm not going anywhere with you," I said, but my voice shook. He leaned down, his breath warm against my ear. You witnessed an assassination attempt on Alessio Marchesi. You think you have a choice? Then he walked toward the door, his men falling into step behind him, and I stood frozen in the middle of the cafe with my heart trying to break through my ribs. Outside, a black car pulled up to the curb, and I knew, with the certainty of a door slamming shut, that my life had just ended. I didn't pack. I ran. Out the back entrance of the cafe, through the alley that smelled of garbage and rain, my sneakers slapping against wet pavement. I had $90 in my pocket and a dead phone in my purse. My apartment was 15 blocks north, but I didn't go there. If he knew where I worked, he knew where I lived. I ducked into a drugstore, bought a burner phone with shaking hands, and called the only person I had left in this city. Lena? Jade's voice was thick with sleep. It's 7 in the morning, what? I need help. What happened? I pressed my forehead against the glass of the phone booth, watching the street. Every dark car made my stomach lurch. Someone tried to poison a customer at the cafe. And now the customer thinks I'm in danger. Is he right? I closed my eyes. I don't know. Come to my place. No. I couldn't put her at risk. Jade had let me crash on her couch when I first arrived in Chicago 3 years ago, broke and running from a past I couldn't name. She was the closest thing I had to family. I just needed to hear your voice. Lena. I hung up. The rain started as I walked, cold November rain that soaked through my thin jacket. I moved without thinking, my body choosing directions my mind couldn't follow. Left on State Street, right on Madison, past buildings that blurred together until I found myself standing outside a church I'd never been to. The doors were unlocked. Inside, the air smelled of candle wax and old wood. I sat in the last pew, shivering, trying to understand what had just happened, trying to remember every detail of this morning. The coffee I'd made, the espresso machine, Marco handing me the cup. Had someone tampered with it? When? How? Running won't help. I gasped, spinning around. Alessio stood at the end of the pew, water dripping from his dark hair. He'd followed me. Of course he had. Men like him didn't let things slip away. How did you find me? I whispered. I own this city, he said simply, sliding into the pew beside me. And you're not as invisible as you think. I didn't poison your coffee. I know. He shrugged out of his jacket and draped it over my shoulders. The silk lining was still warm from his body, and it smelled like expensive cologne and something darker. If you had, you'd be dead. I don't waste time on traitors. The casual way he said it made my skin prickle. Then let me go. Can't. He leaned back against the wooden pew, his eyes fixed on the stained glass window above the altar. 3 hours ago, someone sent a message to every family in Chicago. They said they'd successfully infiltrated my organization, that they'd gotten close enough to touch my coffee, but they failed. They proved a point. His jaw tightened, and now every rival I have thinks there's a crack in my armor. A weak spot named Lena Rossi, who walks around unprotected, making coffee. I'm nobody, I said desperately. I'm not worth. You served me coffee. In my world, that makes you mine. He finally looked at me, and the intensity in his gray eyes made me feel like I was falling, which means anyone who touches you is declaring war. The words settled over me like a shroud. What do you want from me? I asked. I want you alive. He reached out slowly, giving me time to pull away, and brushed a strand of wet hair from my face. His fingers lingered against my cheek. I want you where I can see you, where I can protect you until I find whoever is trying to start this war. And then you go back to your life. Something flickered in his expression, there and gone. If you still want to. I should have been afraid. I should have run again, screamed, fought, but sitting there in the empty church with rain hammering against the stained glass, all I could think about was the gentleness of his touch, the way he'd given me his jacket without asking if I was cold, the way he'd said mine like it meant something. I need to call my friend, I said. Tell her I'm okay. Already done. I sent someone to check on her. She's safe. He stood, offering me his hand. Come on, I have people waiting. I stared at his hand. Long fingers, scarred knuckles, a silver ring on his right hand, engraved with something I couldn't read. If I go with you, I said slowly, what happens to me? You stay in my house, under my protection. You don't leave without guards. You don't contact anyone I haven't vetted. You do exactly what I say. His expression didn't change. And you trust that I won't let anything happen to you. Why should I trust you? Because if I wanted you dead, we wouldn't be having this conversation. It wasn't reassuring. It was honest. I took his hand. His fingers closed around mine, warm and certain, and he pulled me to my feet. We walked out of the church together, into the rain that had turned torrential. A black SUV waited at the curb, engine running. The door opened, and I climbed inside. As we pulled away from the church, I looked back through the rain-streaked window. The building grew smaller, and I had the strange sensation of watching my old life disappear. Alessio sat beside me in the darkness, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from his body. Neither of us spoke, but when the car turned a corner and I swayed slightly, his hand steadied me and stayed there. The house wasn't a house, it was a fortress. We drove for 40 minutes, leaving the city behind for the North Shore suburbs. The estate sat behind iron gates and manicured hedges, a sprawling stone mansion that looked like something out of a Gothic novel. As we pulled up the circular drive, I counted at least 6 security cameras. "Welcome home," Alessio said dryly. A woman met us at the door, mid-50s, steel gray hair pulled back in a severe bun, wearing a black dress that looked like a uniform. Her eyes swept over me with clinical assessment. "This is Teresa," Alessio said. "She runs the house. Whatever you need, ask her." "Mr. Marchesi." Teresa's voice was crisp, professional. "The guest room in the East Wing is prepared." "No." Alessio shrugged off his wet jacket, handing it to someone I hadn't noticed standing in the shadows. "She stays in the room next to mine." Teresa's expression didn't change, but I felt the weight of her surprise. "Very well." I followed Alessio through a marble foyer that echoed with our footsteps, past a sweeping staircase and down a hallway lined with paintings. Everything was dark wood and expensive fabric, lit by lamps that cast pools of golden light. He stopped at a door and pushed it open. The room was twice the size of my apartment. A 4-poster bed dominated the space, covered in cream linens. French doors led to a balcony overlooking gardens I couldn't see in the darkness. A fireplace crackled with fresh flames. "Bathrooms through there," Alessio said, nodding toward another door. "Teresa will bring you clothes. Dinner's at 7. I turned to face him. "Why am I really here?" He'd been walking toward the door, but he stopped. Slowly, he turned back to me, and for the first time since this morning, I saw something crack in his controlled expression. "Because someone tried to kill me through you," he said quietly. "And because when I looked at you this morning, I saw something I haven't seen in years." "What?" "Fear. Real fear. Not the calculated kind that people use to manipulate me." He took a step closer. "You were terrified, and you still spoke to me like I was human." My breath caught. "You are human. Most people forget that." His gaze moved over my face again, slower this time. "What are you running from, Lena Rossi?" The question hit like a physical blow. "What makes you think I'm running?" "Because I recognize it." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small object, a key, old and tarnished. "I found this in your bag while you were in the church. Teresa retrieved your things from your apartment." I snatched for it, but he held it away. "Give it back. It's not a real key. The teeth are wrong." He studied it in the lamplight. "It's a copy. A fake. Which means somewhere, there's a real one. And whatever it opens, you've been carrying a reminder of it around like a talisman." Tears burned my eyes. "You have no right." "I have every right." But his voice was gentle now. "You're in my house. Under my protection. Which means your secrets are now my concern." "It was my father's," I whispered. "I don't know what it opens. He died before he could tell me." Alessio was quiet for a long moment. Then he placed the key in my palm and folded my fingers around it. His hands were warm, covering mine completely. "I'm sorry," he said. Those 2 words, said in that low, careful voice, broke something in me. I'd been running for so long from grief, from questions, from the shadows in my past that I'd forgotten what it felt like to stop. "Why are you being kind to me?" I asked. "Because kindness is a luxury I can rarely afford." He released my hands, but didn't step back. "And because when someone tries to use an innocent woman to kill me, I want to know why." "Why you? Why that cafe? Why today?" "I don't have answers." "Then we'll find them together." He reached up and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, the gesture so unexpected that I froze. "Get some rest, Lena. Tomorrow, I'm going to teach you how to survive my world." He left before I could respond, the door clicking shut behind him. I stood alone in the beautiful room, the key pressed against my palm, and wondered what I'd just agreed to. I didn't sleep. How could I? Every creak of the old house made me flinch. Every shadow looked like a threat. I lay in the enormous bed, staring at the ceiling, the key clutched in my hand, until it left an imprint on my palm. At 3 a.m., I gave up and walked to the French doors. The gardens spread below, illuminated by strategically placed lights. Hedges formed geometric patterns. A fountain stood silent in the center, its stone cherubs frozen mid-dance. Beyond the walls, I could see nothing but darkness. I was a prisoner in a gilded cage. Can't sleep either? I spun around. Alessio stood in the doorway connecting our rooms, a door I hadn't noticed earlier. He wore dark pants and nothing else, and I quickly looked away from the sight of his bare chest, the tattoos that covered his ribs and shoulders in intricate patterns. You have a door between our rooms, I said. Yes. Why? So I can hear if someone tries to kill you in the night. He walked to the balcony, standing close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from his skin. And because I don't trust anyone else to keep you safe, not even your own people. His jaw tightened. Especially not my own people. Someone in my organization helped plan this morning's attempt, someone close enough to know my schedule, my preferences, the cafe I use for meetings. The implication settled over me like ice water. You think someone in this house, I think someone everywhere. He braced his hands on the railing, staring out at the darkness. My father built this family from nothing, turned the Marchesi name into something people feared and respected. When he died 5 years ago, I inherited an empire, and every enemy he'd ever made. Why are you telling me this? Because you asked me a question this morning. You asked who I was. He turned to face me, and in the pale light, his features looked carved from stone. I'm the man who keeps the peace in this city. The man who makes sure the violence stays contained, the innocent stay safe, the politicians stay bought. I'm the monster they need, so they can sleep at night. You're not a monster, I said quietly. You don't know me well enough to make that judgment. I know you didn't have to help me. You could have let them take me, used me as bait. The thought crossed my mind. His honesty was brutal. For about 3 seconds. Then I looked at you and saw something I haven't seen in this world in a very long time. What? Innocence. He reached out and traced the line of my jaw with one finger, so gently I almost didn't feel it. Real, genuine innocence. Not manufactured. Not performed. You don't belong in this darkness. Lena, then why keep me in it? Because leaving you in the light will get you killed. A sound echoed through the house, sharp, violent, glass breaking. Alessio moved faster than I thought possible, shoving me behind him as he pulled a gun from somewhere I hadn't seen. Stay here. Lock the door after me. Don't open it for anyone but me. What's happening? Now, Lena. He disappeared through the connecting door. I heard his footsteps running, heard shouts echoing from somewhere below. My hands shook as I turned the lock, then pressed my ear against the wood. Gunshots. 2, 3, 4. Then silence. I waited in that silence for an eternity, my heart hammering so hard I thought my ribs might crack. Minutes passed. 5, 10, 15. Then footsteps in the hallway. Lena, open the door. Alessio's voice, but something was wrong with it. Strained, tight with pain. I opened the door. He stood there, blood soaking through his left shoulder, his gun still in his right hand. Behind him, 2 of his men dragged something wrapped in a tarp, something that used to be human. Oh my God. I reached for him, but he caught my hand. I'm fine. It's a graze. He holstered the gun and walked past me into my room, leaving bloody footprints on the cream carpet. We had an intruder. He's been neutralized. You're bleeding. Teresa, he called, and within seconds, the woman appeared with a medical kit. She didn't even blink at the blood, just set the kit on the bed and began efficiently cleaning the wound. I stood frozen, watching as she worked, watching Alessio's face remain perfectly calm while she poured antiseptic into what looked like a bullet graze, watching him not even flinch. The intruder, he said to one of the men hovering in the doorway. What did he tell you before he died? Said he was hired through an intermediary, paid to breach the walls and retrieve the girl. The man's voice was flat, professional. He didn't know who hired him, just that they wanted her alive. Alessio's eyes met mine across the room. They're moving faster than I expected. Who? I whispered. Who wants me? That's what we're going to find out. He winced as Teresa tied off the bandage. But first, we're going to make sure you know how to defend yourself. I don't know how to use a gun. Then you're going to learn. He stood, dismissing Teresa with a nod, and walked over to me. Up close, I could see the tension in his shoulders, the way he held his injured arm slightly away from his body. Tomorrow morning, first thing, you're going to train with Marco. The Marco from the cafe? No, different Marco. My head of security. His good hand came up to cup my face, his thumb brushing my cheekbone. I need you to understand something, Lena. This isn't a game. These people won't stop. And if you don't learn to fight back, they will take you. Why do they want me so badly? I don't know yet. His voice dropped lower. But I'm going to find out. And when I do, I'm going to burn their world to ash. The promise in his voice should have terrified me. Instead, I felt something else. Something hot and dangerous that coiled in my stomach. You should rest, I said. You're hurt. I've had worse. But he didn't move away. Instead, he leaned down, his forehead almost touching mine. I'm sorry you're caught in this. You didn't put me here. No. But I'm keeping you here. His breath ghosted across my lips. And that might be worse. For one heartbeat, I thought he might kiss me. I could see it in his eyes, the want, the restraint, the war between the two. Then he pulled back, stepping away from me like I'd burned him. Lock the door after me, he said. And this time, don't open it. Not for anyone, not even me. He left through the connecting door, and I heard the lock click on his side. I stood there in the dark room, smelling blood and gunpowder and expensive cologne, and realized that somewhere in the last 24 hours, my fear had transformed into something far more dangerous. Marco, the security Marco, not the cafe Marco, was built like a tank and had the personality of granite. Again, he barked. I adjusted my stance, the gun heavy in my hands. The basement shooting range echoed with each shot, the sound reverberating through my bones. I'd been down here for 3 hours, and my arms felt like lead. I said again. I fired. The bullet hit the target's shoulder instead of center mass. Marco grunted. Better, now faster. In a real situation, you won't have time to aim. In a real situation, I'll probably die, I muttered. Not if I can help it. Alessio's voice came from the doorway. He descended the stairs, moving carefully, his shoulder still bandaged beneath his crisp white shirt. How's she doing? She's got potential. Marco took the gun from my hands with surprising gentleness. Good instincts. Needs work on speed and accuracy, but she doesn't panic. That's rare, I noticed. Alessio stopped beside me, close enough that I could smell his cologne. Take a break, Lena. We need to talk. My stomach tightened. Did you find something? Come with me. He led me through the labyrinthine house to a room I hadn't seen before, a study with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves and a massive mahogany desk. Papers covered every surface. Photographs, documents, a map of Chicago with red pins marking locations I didn't recognize. Sit, he said, pouring 2 glasses of whiskey. It's 10 in the morning. It's been a long morning. He handed me a glass and settled into the chair across from me, wincing as he shifted his weight. I had my people dig into your background. Your father, Antonio Rossi, died when you were 12. Car accident. I know how my father died. It wasn't an accident. He pulled a file from the desk and opened it, showing me photographs I'd never seen. Crime scene photos. My father's car, crumpled against a concrete barrier. The brake lines were cut. Professionally, this was a hit. The room tilted. No, your mother, Sophia, died 2 years later. The official report says heart attack, but she was 36 and healthy. He pulled out another document. I think she knew what happened to your father. I think someone decided she knew too much. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. The whiskey glass shook in my hands. Who were they? I whispered. Really, that's what I can't figure out. Alessio leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. Your father's name appears in exactly 3 places in my archives. Once as a witness to a murder in 1998. Once as a person of interest in a federal investigation that went nowhere. And once, he paused. Once as a name mentioned in my father's personal journal. Your father knew mine? Apparently. His gray eyes bore into me. The entry says, Antonio is getting cold feet. The key might be a problem. The key. I fumbled in my pocket, pulling out the tarnished piece of metal. This? Maybe. He reached out, and I dropped it into his palm. He studied it under the desk lamp, turning it over. It's old, Italian make, probably from the 40s or 50s, the kind used for safety deposit boxes. My father never mentioned a safety deposit box. He wouldn't have. Not if he was trying to protect you. Alessio set the key on the desk between us. I think your father had something information, documents, evidence that someone very powerful wanted. I think that's why he died. And I think whoever killed him has been looking for that key ever since. But I've had it for 15 years. If they wanted it so badly. You were a child, invisible, easy to watch and wait for. His expression darkened. But then you started working at my cafe. You came onto my radar, and suddenly, you weren't invisible anymore. The implications crashed over me. They tried to poison you to draw attention to me. Not poison, test. He stood, pacing to the window. The substance in the coffee wasn't lethal. It was a sedative, carefully measured. They wanted to see how I'd react. Wanted to see if I'd keep you close or throw you away. And you kept me. And I signed your death warrant. He turned back to me. And for the first time, I saw something that looked like guilt in his eyes. If I'd let you go, they might have left you alone a little longer. But I brought you here, under my protection. And now they know you matter to me. Why do I matter to you? The question came out softer than I intended. He crossed the room in 3 strides, pulling me to my feet. We stood inches apart, his good hand gripping my arm, his injured shoulder making him hold his body at an angle that suggested pain. Because I looked at you in that cafe and saw something pure, he said roughly. Because you looked at me like I was human instead of a weapon. Because every person in my life wants something from me, power, money, protection, death, and you just wanted to serve coffee and disappear. I still want to disappear. Too late. His thumb traced circles on my forearm. You're in this now, with me. And I don't know how to let you go. The confession hung between us, raw and dangerous. What if I want to go? I asked. Then I'll let you. His voice was barely above a whisper. But you'll die. Within a week. Maybe less. And if I stay, then I'll teach you to survive. I'll find out what your father knew. I'll track down every person who wants you dead. His grip tightened. And I'll burn them all. I should have been afraid of the violence in his voice. Instead, I felt something else, a dark thrill that raced down my spine and pooled in my stomach. I want to stay, I said. His eyes searched mine. Why? Because I'm tired of running. Because someone killed my parents and I want to know why. I lifted my chin. And because you're the first person in 15 years who's made me feel like I'm not alone. Something broke in his expression. He pulled me against him, his good arm wrapping around my waist, his injured one hanging at his side, his face buried in my hair, and I felt him breathe me in like I was oxygen, and he'd been drowning. You're not alone, he murmured against my temple. Not anymore. We stood like that for a long moment, wrapped in each other, the morning light streaming through the windows and painting us both in gold. His heart beat against my cheek, steady and strong. Then his phone rang, shattering the moment. He answered without releasing me. What? I couldn't hear the voice on the other end, but I felt Alessio's body go rigid. When? A pause. How many? Another pause, longer this time. Lock down the house, no one in or out, and get me Dante. Now. He hung up and pulled back, his face transformed into the cold mask I'd seen at the cafe. What happened? I asked. Someone just tried to kidnap Jade. The world stopped spinning. What? Your friend. 3 men grabbed her outside her apartment an hour ago. My people intervened, but he ran his hand through his hair. She's safe, but they're escalating. They're going after everyone you know, trying to find leverage. Guilt crashed through me. I should never have called her. You didn't lead them to her. They already knew about her. They've probably been watching her as long as they've been watching you. He cupped my face in his hands. Listen to me. This is going to get worse before it gets better. These people, whoever they are, they're organized, well-funded, and desperate. And desperate people do terrible things. What do we do? His jaw clenched. We stop playing defense. Tomorrow, we go hunting. Jade arrived at the mansion an hour later, flanked by 3 of Alessio's men, and looking like she'd aged 10 years. Lena. She ran to me, and we collided in the foyer, holding each other tight. She was shaking. What the hell is happening? I don't know, I whispered. I'm so sorry. Miss Jade. Alessio's voice cut through our reunion. You're safe here. Teresa will show you to a room. We'll talk after you've rested. Jade pulled back, looking between us. You're staying here? With him? It's complicated. It's insane. But she said it without heat, still shaken from whatever had happened. Teresa appeared and gently guided her toward the stairs. I turned to Alessio. Thank you for protecting her. I protect what's mine. His eyes held mine. And you care about her, which makes her mine too. The possessiveness in his voice should have bothered me. Instead, it made heat coil low in my belly. I need to know everything, I said. No more secrets. If people are dying because of me, I deserve the truth. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded. My office, 30 minutes. Bring the key. 30 minutes later, I found myself in his office with Alessio, Marco, and a man I hadn't met, tall, elegant, with silver at his temples and sharp black eyes. This is Dante, Alessio said, my consigliere, the only person in this organization I trust completely. Dante inclined his head. Miss Rossi, I'm sorry we're meeting under such circumstances. I set the key on Alessio's desk. Tell me what you know. Alessio pulled up a digital file on his computer. We traced the men who tried to take Jade. They're connected to the Volkov family, Russian mob. Normally we have a understanding with them. They stay east of the river, we stay west. But 3 months ago, Dmitry Volkov started making moves. Buying property, talking to politicians, testing boundaries. What does this have to do with my father? Your father, Dante said quietly, worked as an accountant for the Italian families in the 90s, including Alessio's father. He handled finances, kept records, managed offshore accounts. He was trusted, essential. The room spun. My father was in the Mafia? He was a civilian contractor. He never made his bones, never killed anyone. But he knew where the money went, who paid whom, every dirty secret. Dante pulled out an old photograph, my father, younger, laughing at some event, standing next to a man I recognized from news reports. Alessio's father. In 1998, Dante continued. Someone started skimming from the families. Millions of dollars. Your father discovered it. But before he could report who was behind it, he died. And the records he kept? I asked. Disappeared. Alessio leaned back in his chair. My father searched for years. That key, he gestured to the tarnished metal, was mentioned in your father's last phone call to mine. He said he'd hidden something, that if anything happened to him, the key would lead to the truth. But I don't know where it goes, I said helplessly. I've had it for 15 years. I don't know what it opens. We'll figure it out. Alessio's voice was certain. But first we need to understand why the Volkovs want you now. After all this time, why make their move? Marco spoke up. Boss, there's something else. We found this on one of the men who tried to take the friend. He slid a photograph across the desk. It was me, standing outside my apartment 3 weeks ago. But written across the bottom in Russian were 2 words that made my blood freeze. What does it say? I asked. Alessio's face was stone. The daughter. What daughter? We don't know yet. He stood, pacing. But someone thinks you're connected to something bigger than your father's old records. Someone thinks you're... His phone buzzed. He looked at the screen and went very still. What? I asked. He turned the phone to face me. A video message, playing on loop. Dmitry Volkov himself, sitting in what looked like an expensive restaurant, smiling at the camera. Alessio Marchesi, the Russian man said in accented English. I believe you have something of mine. A girl, dark hair, pretty eyes. She doesn't know what she is yet. But we do. Return her, and perhaps we can avoid unpleasantness. Keep her, and I will burn your city to the ground. The video ended. Silence filled the office. He called me something of his. I whispered. What does that mean? Alessio's jaw clenched so hard I thought his teeth might crack. When he spoke, his voice was deadly quiet. It means we just confirmed what I suspected. This isn't about your father's records. This is about blood. I don't understand. Your mother. Dante pulled up another file. Sofia Rossi. Born Sofia Volkov, Dmitry's younger sister. The world tilted off its axis. No, I said. No, that's impossible. She left Russia at 18, cut all ties with her family, changed her name, married your father, tried to disappear. Dante's voice was gentle. But blood doesn't disappear, Miss Rossi. And apparently, Dmitry has decided he wants his niece back. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. My mother, my gentle, sad mother who died when I was 14, was Russian mob royalty? Lena. Alessio was in front of me suddenly, his hands on my shoulders. Look at me. I looked up into his gray eyes. Nothing changes, he said fiercely. You're still under my protection. No one takes you. Not Dimitri, not God himself. Do you understand? Why? I asked. Why protect me if I'm one of them? Because you're not. His thumbs traced my collarbones. You're not your blood. You're not your family. You're you, and you're mine. The claim in his voice made something inside me crack open. Alessio, I need you to trust me, he said. Can you do that? I thought about the last 48 hours. The violence, the blood, the way this man had upended my entire world. I thought about how he'd protected Jade, how he'd given me his jacket in the rain, how he'd held me in his office like I was precious. Yes, I whispered. I trust you. Something fierce and possessive flared in his eyes. Then he did something I didn't expect. He kissed my forehead. Soft, gentle, reverent. His lips lingered against my skin, and I felt his breath shudder. Then let me keep you safe, he murmured against my hair. No matter what it costs. And standing there in his office, surrounded by maps and files and plans for war, I realized I'd do anything to stay in this man's gravity, even if it destroyed us both. The war started at midnight. I woke to the sound of explosions, distant but unmistakable. The windows rattled in their frames. Somewhere in the house, alarms shrieked to life. Alessio burst through the connecting door, fully dressed, gun in hand. Get up, now. What's happening? Volkov's making his move. He threw a bulletproof vest at me. Put this on. We're evacuating. My hands shook as I struggled with the vest. He crossed to me in 2 strides and helped, his fingers quick and efficient. Where's Jade? Already in the safe room with Teresa and the others. Another explosion. Closer this time. The lights flickered. We need to move. He grabbed my hand and pulled me into the hallway. Men ran in every direction, weapons drawn. I heard gunfire from somewhere below, sharp, rapid bursts that made my teeth rattle. They breached the perimeter. Marco appeared from a side corridor, blood streaming from a cut above his eye. Boss, they've got RPGs. The West Wing is compromised. How many? At least 30, maybe more. Marco's face was grim. They're not here to negotiate. Alessio's grip on my hand tightened. Get everyone to the tunnels. You'll come with us. Dante emerged from the smoke filling the hallway. Your father built those tunnels for exactly this scenario. We live to fight another day. I don't run. You do when you're protecting something more important than your pride. Dante's eyes flicked to me. Move, Alessio. That's an order. For a moment, I thought Alessio would refuse. Then he cursed viciously and pulled me after him, down a staircase I hadn't known existed, into a basement level far below the shooting range. The tunnel was narrow, lit by emergency lights. Our footsteps echoed off concrete walls. Behind us, I could hear others following Teresa. Jade, a dozen of Alessio's men. Where does this go? I asked. North Estate. 3 miles from here. Alessio moved fast, but carefully, his injured shoulder making him wince with each step. It's older, smaller, but defensible. What about your house? Is insured. His voice was flat. Buildings burn. People matter more. We'd gone maybe half a mile when the tunnel shook. Dust rained from the ceiling. Someone behind us screamed. They're in the tunnels, Marco shouted. Alessio shoved me toward Dante. Take her. Get everyone out. Alessio. No, that's not a request. He pulled a second gun from his jacket and pressed it into my hands. You remember what Marco taught you? I can't. You can. His eyes burned into mine. Safety off. Point and shoot. Aim for center mass. Then softer. Stay alive, Lena. That's an order. He turned back toward the sounds of pursuit before I could argue. Move. Dante grabbed my arm, pulling me forward. We ran through the darkness, Jade sobbing somewhere behind me, the sound of gunfire growing louder. The tunnel branched, then branched again. We took a left, then a right. My lungs burned. My legs screamed, but I kept running until we rounded a corner and found them waiting. 5 men, all Russian, all armed. They blocked the tunnel exit, guns trained on us. Stop, the leader said, in accented English. Miss Rossi, you will come with us. Everyone else, he shrugged. Unfortunate casualties. Dante raised his gun, but 3 red dots appeared on his chest. Don't, he said quietly to the rest of us. Everyone stay calm. Lena Rossi. The leader smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Your uncle sends his regards. He is very eager to meet his niece. I'm not going anywhere with you." My voice shook, but I raised the gun Alessio had given me, chambering around like Marco had taught me. "Touch any of these people and I'll kill you. Brave." The Russian's smile widened. "But stupid. You're outnumbered, outgunned," and the lights went out. Complete, absolute darkness. For one heartbeat, no one moved. Then chaos. Gunfire erupted, muzzle flashes illuminating the tunnel in strobe light bursts. I felt someone tackle me to the ground. Dante, covering me with his body. More shots, screaming, the smell of cordite and blood. Then silence. The emergency lights flickered back on. Alessio stood in the tunnel entrance behind where the Russians had been, smoke rising from his gun. All 5 men were down. Dead or dying? I couldn't tell. "Everyone okay?" His voice was cold, controlled, but when his eyes found me, something cracked. "Lena?" I pushed out from under Dante, stumbling toward him. "I'm okay. We're okay." He caught me against him, his good arm crushing me to his chest. His heart hammered against my ear. I thought when I heard the guns. "I'm okay," I repeated, my voice muffled against his shirt. "You came." "Always." He pulled back just enough to check me for injuries, his hands running over my arms, my sides, making sure I was whole. "Did they touch you?" "No." Dante protected me. Alessio looked at his consigliere over my head. "Thank you." Dante just nodded, already moving to help the others. "We need to keep moving," Marco said. "More will come." But Alessio didn't move. He stood there holding me, his face buried in my hair, breathing like he'd run a marathon. "Alessio," I said softly. "We have to go." "I know." But still, he didn't release me. "Lena, I need to tell you something. Before we go up there. Before this gets worse." "What?" He pulled back, his hands framing my face. His eyes were wild, desperate. "I've killed 23 men tonight. I will kill 100 more before this is over. I am exactly the monster you should be running from. I know, and I don't care." His voice broke. "I don't care about the consequences. I don't care about starting a war. All I care about is keeping you alive. And that makes me selfish, dangerous, wrong. Alessio, but I can't stop." His thumbs traced my cheekbones. "I looked at you in that cafe, and something in me recognized something in you. Like I'd been waiting my whole life for you to walk into it. And now that you're here, I can't let you go." The confession hung between us, raw and bleeding. "Then don't," I whispered. His eyes searched mine. "What?" "Don't let me go." I reached up, covering his hands with mine. "I'm tired of being alone, tired of running. You said I'm yours. Fine. Then be mine too." Something fierce and possessive blazed in his expression. Then he kissed me, not gentle, not soft, desperate and claiming and edged with violence. His mouth moved against mine like he was trying to crawl inside my soul. I kissed him back with everything I had, tasting smoke and gunpowder and something darker. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, I saw that everyone had politely turned away. "Let's go home," Alessio said roughly. "We don't have a home," I reminded him. "You said the mansion was burning." His smile was sharp and dangerous. "Then we'll build a new one. Out of ash and blood if we have to." He took my hand and led me toward the exit, toward the night and the war waiting above, and I followed willingly into the darkness. The North Estate was a fortress within a fortress, older, grimmer, built during Prohibition with murder holes in the walls and steel-reinforced doors. We arrived at dawn, exhausted and covered in dust. Alessio immediately went into command mode, posting guards, checking perimeters, making calls to allies I didn't know he had. I watched him transform from the man who'd kissed me in the tunnel to the ruthless boss who terrified an entire city. "He's protecting you," Jade said quietly. We sat in a small kitchen while Teresa made coffee. "I've never seen a man look at someone the way he looks at you. He barely knows me. Some things don't need time." She squeezed my hand. "I'm scared, Lena, but I'm glad you're not alone." By noon, the full extent of the damage became clear. The mansion was destroyed. 7 of Alessio's men were dead, and Dmitry Volkov had issued a public statement claiming Alessio had kidnapped an innocent Russian girl. "He's playing the media," Dante said, spreading newspapers across the war room table. "Making you the victim, making us the villains. Can he do that?" I asked. "He's doing it." Alessio stood at the window, staring out at the grounds. He hadn't slept, hadn't eaten, Blood stained his shirt from where his shoulder wound had reopened. The police are circling. The FBI is asking questions. He's forcing me into a corner. So we give them proof, I said. We find whatever my father hid. We expose Dimitri for what he is. With what? Alessio turned, and I barely recognized him. His face was haggard, eyes bloodshot. We have a key and theories. That's not evidence. Then we make him come to us. The idea formed as I spoke. He wants me alive. Wants to bring me back into the family. So I call him. I arrange a meeting. Absolutely not. On neutral ground, I continued, talking over his refusal. Somewhere public. We wear wires. We get him on record admitting what he did. He'll never admit to anything, Dante said. He's too smart. But he'll want to convince me. I looked at Alessio. That's what abusers do, right? They gaslight. They rewrite history. If I push the right buttons, ask about my mother, about my father's death, he might slip. Silence filled the room. It's too dangerous, Alessio said finally. Everything is dangerous. I crossed to him. But this way, we're in control. We set the terms. And if it goes wrong, I pulled the key from my pocket. We trade this. Tell him we'll give him whatever my father hid in exchange for everyone's safety. You'd give up the evidence? To save lives? Yes. I held his gaze. But we both know I won't have to, because you'll have 100 men surrounding that location, and the second he makes a move, you'll end this. Alessio stared at me for a long moment. Then he turned to Dante. Set it up. Millennium Park. Tomorrow at noon. Public enough that he can't try anything obvious. Open enough that we can see threats coming. Boss. Do it. His voice was steel. Then to me. You and I need to talk. Alone. He walked out of the war room, and I followed. He led me to a bedroom on the second floor, sparse, functional, clearly unused. The moment the door closed, he rounded on me. What the hell were you thinking? His voice was quiet, deadly. Volunteering yourself as bait? I was thinking that people are dying because of me, I shot back. I was thinking that maybe I'm tired of being protected like I'm made of glass. You're not made of glass. You're made of flesh that bleeds and bones that break. He stalked toward me. Do you have any idea what Dimitri will do if he gets his hands on you? Tell me. He'll take you to Russia, marry you off to some ally to secure a political alliance, and if you resist, he'll break you piece by piece until you're too scared to fight anymore. His hands fisted at his sides. I've seen what men like him do to women. I won't let that happen to you. Then help me stop him. I grabbed his shirt, pulling him closer. Stop treating me like a victim and treat me like a partner. I'm in this now. I'm in it with you. And I'm not leaving. You should, his voice cracked. You should run, get on a plane, leave the country, disappear. I'd help you, give you money, new identity, everything you need. Is that what you want? What I want doesn't matter. Answer the question. I didn't let go of his shirt. Is that what you want? For me to leave? His jaw clenched. No. Then stop pushing me away. I'm trying to keep you alive. I'm already alive. My voice rose. For the first time in 15 years, I'm actually alive. I'm scared and angry, and I might die tomorrow, but at least I'm feeling something. At least I'm not just existing anymore. Lena, you said I'm yours. I pulled him closer, until we were breathing the same air. Prove it. Stop trying to protect me from the world and let me fight beside you. Something broke in his expression. His hands came up to frame my face, and his kiss was bruising, desperate. He backed me against the wall, his body pressing into mine, and I felt every hard line of him. You're going to destroy me. He breathed against my lips. You're going to be the end of everything I've built. Good. I kissed him back just as hard. Build something new with me instead. His hands found the hem of my shirt, pulling it over my head. My fingers worked the buttons of his blood-stained shirt. We moved together frantically, desperately, like the world was ending and this was our last moment. Maybe it was. He lifted me, and I wrapped my legs around his waist. His injured shoulder had to hurt, but he didn't slow down, didn't stop. We made it to the bed in a tangle of limbs and frantic touches. Tell me you want this, he said, his forehead pressed to mine. Tell me this is real. It's real. I pulled him down to me. And I want this. I want you. What happened next was raw and intimate, and edged with violence. He touched me like he was trying to memorize every inch of my skin. I held him like he might disappear, and when we finally came together, it felt like something fundamental shifting in the universe. Afterward, We lay tangled together, breathing hard. His hand traced lazy patterns on my spine. "I love you," he said quietly. "I know it's too soon. I know it's insane. But I need you to know. In case tomorrow, don't." I pressed my fingers to his lips. "Don't talk about tomorrow. Just be here, now, with me." He kissed my fingers, then my palm, then pulled me closer. "I'm not letting anything happen to you," he murmured against my hair. "I don't care what I have to do, who I have to kill. You're mine, and I protect what's mine." "I know," I whispered. "I love you too." His arms tightened around me, and we lay there as the sun climbed higher, as the world outside prepared for war. And for one perfect moment, we were just two people holding each other in the darkness. Millennium Park at noon was surreal. Tourists wandered past Cloud Gate, taking photos. Children ran through Crown Fountain. A street performer played violin near the pavilion. And somewhere in the crowd, I knew Alessio's men were positioned on rooftops, in shops, blending with the civilians. I wore a wire taped beneath my blouse. Alessio had checked it 3 times before letting me leave the car. "The moment it goes wrong," he'd said, gripping my shoulders, "you run. Don't think. Don't hesitate. Just run. And we'll find you. It won't go wrong. Promise me, Lena." I'd kissed him instead of answering. Now I stood near the fountain, waiting. Dimitri had agreed to the meeting immediately, too immediately, which made everyone nervous. But here I was anyway, watching the water cascade and trying to steady my breathing. Lena Volkov. I turned. Dimitri looked nothing like I'd expected. He was handsome in a cold way, gray at the temples, sharp cheekbones, expensive suit. He could have been a banker, a lawyer, anyone but what he was. "It's Lena Rossi," I said. "Your mother's married name. Understandable." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You look like her." Sophia was beautiful too. "Don't talk about my mother." "Why not? She was my sister. I loved her." He moved closer, hands in his pockets, non-threatening, casual. "I mourned her when she died, and I mourned the niece I never got to know. You didn't know her because she ran from you, from all of you. She ran from responsibility, from family." His voice hardened slightly. "She was selfish. She chose a nobody accountant over her own blood. She chose love. Love." He said it like a curse. "Love got her killed. Love got your father killed. Love is weakness, Lena. And the Volkovs don't survive by being weak." "Then why do you want me?" I asked. "If I'm the daughter of weakness." "Because you're also the daughter of strength. Russian strength. It's in your blood, no matter how much American coffee you serve." He circled me slowly. "You survived, didn't you? Orphaned at 14, alone in a foreign city. Most girls would have crumbled. But you adapted, fought. That's Volkov blood. That's human resilience. It has nothing to do with you. Doesn't it?" He stopped in front of me. "I've been watching you for 3 years, Lena, since you turned 21, waiting for the right moment. And then you went to work for Alessio Marchesi, my biggest rival, and everything accelerated. You tried to poison him. I tested his security, and proved what I already knew: he's getting soft." Dimitri's smile turned sharp. "He's weak for you. That's useful. I'm not going back with you." "Yes, you are." He reached into his jacket slowly, showing me he was pulling out a phone, not a weapon. "Because if you don't, I'll kill everyone you love. Starting with your friend Jade." He turned the phone toward me. The screen showed live video. Jade, tied to a chair in a dark room, blood on her face, terror in her eyes. My heart stopped. "You said neutral ground. I said I'd meet you here. I never said I came alone." His smile widened. "My men took your friend an hour ago. Very quietly. Very efficiently. Marchesi's people never even noticed." Behind me, I heard movement. Alessio's voice in my earpiece. "Lena, get out of there, now." But I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. "Here's what happens next," Dimitri said calmly. "You come with me, peacefully, and I let your friend go. You resist, you run, you signal your boyfriend." He shrugged. "Well, pretty girls can endure a lot of pain before they die. Don't hurt her," I whispered. "Please." "Then come." A black car pulled up to the curb. The door opened. "Lena, don't." Alessio's voice in my ear, desperate. I pulled the wire from beneath my blouse and dropped it on the ground. "I'm sorry," I said to the microphone, knowing he could hear me. "I'm so sorry." Then I walked toward the car. Dimitri followed, his hand on my elbow guiding, not forcing. To anyone watching, We looked like family. Like reunion. The door closed behind us. As the car pulled away, I looked back through the tinted window. I couldn't see Alessio, but I knew he was there, watching, probably already moving. "Smart girl," Dmitri said beside me. "That's the Volkov blood showing." I didn't answer. I just closed my eyes and prayed that Alessio was as good as everyone said he was. The warehouse was on the south side, abandoned and perfect for terrible things. They didn't hurt me, not yet. Just locked me in a small room with a chair and a bucket, and one dim bulb hanging from the ceiling. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time felt strange. The door opened. Dmitri entered, holding a folder. "I thought you might want to see this. Since you're so interested in your father's secrets." He dropped the folder on the ground near me. Inside were photographs, documents, my father's handwriting. "He was stealing from us," Dmitri said. "From the Russians and the Italians both. Skimming money, hiding it in offshore accounts. He thought he was clever." He crouched down beside me, but he wasn't clever enough. "And when we found out, we had to make an example. You killed him." I gave the order. "Yes. No shame, no regret. And I had your mother killed too when she started asking questions. She knew too much, loved too much, became a liability." Rage burned through me, hot and clarifying. "You murdered your own sister. I protected my family," he stood. "And now you'll do the same. You'll marry who I tell you to marry. You'll smile and be grateful. And maybe, if you're useful enough, I'll let you live. Alessio will come for me. I'm counting on it." Dmitri smiled. "I've wanted an excuse to destroy the Marchesi family for years. Now your boyfriend will walk right into my trap trying to save you." He moved toward the door. "You should rest. Tomorrow's going to be a very long day." The door closed. I sat in the darkness. My father's documents spread around me, and tried not to panic. But all I could think about was Alessio's face, his hands on my skin, his voice saying, "I love you." "I'm sorry," I whispered to the empty room. "I'm so sorry." And then I heard it. Distant, faint, but unmistakable. Gunfire. The gunfire got closer. I stood, pressing myself against the wall, my heart hammering. The single bulb flickered. Shadows danced. Then the door exploded inward. Alessio stood in the doorway, backlit by flames, holding a gun that still smoked. Blood covered his shirt, his own or someone else's. I couldn't tell. His eyes found mine across the room, and the relief in them was devastating. "Lena." I ran to him, and he caught me with his free arm, crushing me against him. "You're okay. Thank God. You're okay. Jade. We have her. Marco got her out 10 minutes ago. She's safe." He pulled back, checking me for injuries. "Did they hurt you?" "No. But Dmitri, he showed me things about my father. Later." He grabbed my hand. "We need to move. This whole place is coming down." We ran through corridors filled with smoke and bodies. Alessio's men were everywhere, methodically clearing rooms. I tried not to look at the carnage. We made it outside just as the warehouse erupted in flames behind us. "Where's Dmitri?" I asked. Alessio's jaw clenched. "Ran, like the coward he is. But we'll find him. He killed them." My voice broke. He admitted it. He killed my parents because my father discovered he was the one stealing. Dmitri was embezzling from both families. My father was going to expose him, so Dmitri had him murdered and framed someone else. Alessio's eyes widened. "The documents are in there." I gestured to the burning building, but I remember what I saw. Account numbers, dates, names. My father documented everything. "You're sure?" "Yes." I met his gaze. "And I can testify. To the police, the FBI, whoever will listen. I saw proof that Dmitri Volkov murdered his own sister and an innocent man to cover his crimes." A slow, dangerous smile spread across Alessio's face. "Then we have him." The next 72 hours were a blur. Federal agents, depositions, media coverage. Alessio's lawyers and Dante's connections and Marco's security keeping me safe through all of it. My testimony, combined with what investigators found in Dmitri's other properties, was enough. Arrests were made, assets frozen. The Volkov organization crumbled from within. Dmitri himself was caught trying to flee to Moscow. He'd be extradited, tried, spend the rest of his life in prison. It should have felt like victory. Instead, I felt hollow. I sat in Alessio's new safe house, a penthouse downtown with views of the lake, and stared at my father's key. The key that had started everything. "We found what it opens," Alessio said, entering with coffee. A safety deposit box in a bank that closed in 2005. The contents were transferred to a government warehouse. Does it matter anymore? It matters to you. He set the coffee down and pulled me against him. We can get access. See what he left. Maybe there are answers. Or maybe there's just more pain. I rested my head on his shoulder. I don't know if I want to know anymore. Then we don't look. His arms tightened. We move forward. Together. Together. I tasted the word. What does that look like? You're still... I gestured vaguely. You still run an empire. A legitimate one. His voice was firm. I'm done with the violence, Lena. Done with the wars. Dimitri's fall created opportunities. Alliances. Peace. He tilted my face up to meet his eyes. I'm building something new. Something clean. And I want you beside me while I do it. As what? As my partner. My equal. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. My wife, if you'll have me. The world stopped. Inside the box was a ring, simple, elegant, with a stone that caught the light and threw rainbows across the walls. I know it's fast, he said. I know we've only known each other a few weeks, but I've never been more certain of anything in my life. You walked into my world and everything changed. You made me want to be better. Be more than just the monster everyone needed. You're not a monster, I whispered. You saved me, protected me, loved me when I was lost. So is that a yes? I looked at the ring, at his face scarred and beautiful and open in a way I knew he showed no one else. I thought about everything we'd survived, everything we'd lost, and I thought about building something new from ash and blood. Yes, I said. Yes, I'll marry you. He slipped the ring on my finger, and then he kissed me. Soft and sweet and full of promise. When we broke apart, I was crying. What's wrong? He asked, wiping my tears. Nothing, I laughed. Everything's right. For the first time in my life, everything's right. 6 months later, the wedding was small, private. Just Jade and Dante and Marco and Teresa. No press, no spectacle. Just two people choosing each other in front of the people they loved. Afterward, we stood on the penthouse balcony, watching the sun set over Lake Michigan. Do you ever regret it? I asked. Giving up the power? The control? Never. Alessio's arms wrapped around me from behind, his chin resting on my shoulder. I traded an empire for something better. I traded fear for love. Very poetic for a former mob boss. Former mob boss, he repeated, laughing. I like the sound of that. Below us, the city lights began to flicker on. Chicago, spreading out in all directions. The city where I'd been lost. Where I'd been found. Where I'd learned that sometimes salvation comes from the darkest places. I love you, Alessio murmured against my neck. My brave, brilliant wife. I love you too, I said. My dangerous, devoted husband. We stood there as darkness fell, wrapped in each other, watching the city transform. And somewhere in my pocket, my father's key rested still mysterious, still unanswered. But for the first time in 15 years, I didn't need to know what it opened. I'd already found what I'd been searching for. Home.